kind of feel like you are what you eat sometimes.
Yeah.
Like, you know, it's weird because I love watching. I love watching all movies, and I watch TV shows, and I watch like all kinds of stuff. And sometimes I do think like music or anything, like, you know, you do have to be a little discerning. You have to curate sometimes what you let in your brain.
Yeah. Hello, welcome to Movie Town. We are at the DGA Theater for the opening night of the Slamdance Film Festival. I'm here with Alex Rockwell, writer-director of tonight's opening film, The Projectionist.
That's me.
Thanks for coming on Movie Town.
Projectionist, but I'm Alex Rockwell.
Yeah. Have you ever been a projectionist?
Actually, you want to know something? That's my fantasy job.
Yeah.
Especially like the switch over. You know, like when you do the countdown with the beeps and the
Right.
plugs. I love that. I love
the danger, the risk.
And I've been in many projection booths, but I was
Okay.
never a projectionist.
Got it. And but how does because I think it's kind of interesting. Your kind of first breakout film of in '92,
Right.
In the Soup, was really about this filmmaker.
Right.
And then now this isn't about a filmmaker, but going back into kind of film
Right.
world. Did that feel like tied at all to this, or totally like that? You were with a filmmaker before, and now you're kind of in the theater.
Yeah, it's interesting you ask that because I filmmaking has always been like my dad actually worked in a film lab. So when I was a little kid, I used to, go in dark rooms and like when they were developing, and he hired blind people because, you don't have to see in these dark rooms. And so I remember just my first memories being in a dark room with these guys developing film, blind guys, and then I used to chew on film. I remember the taste of film. So like, I don't know, I've always thought like, okay, maybe that was my DNA. Maybe that's where it's all started. But I've always loved, film. And it's like, I was never good at school. I used to skip school. I was a little like that kid in 400 Blows, skip school. And I used to break into a movie theater and sit in the back and kind of doze out, doze in, doze out of double features like The Good, Bad, and the Ugly and, or European art films. And so it's the way I see things and kind of digest things. Like I'm making films all the time. So it's weird when you see there's a connection. It's just that for me, it's the way I kind of think. So I don't think of it like, oh, should I make a film about a filmmaker or someone who works as a projectionist? It's like someone who's a doctor who just thinks about bodies or something. That's just the world I live in.
And how does, watching films relate to the movies, either in the writing process or directing? Like, do you find yourself narrowing down the kind of stuff you watch, being worried that you'll watch something that influences the movie in the wrong way? Like, what is that as a movie goer?
I kind of feel like you are what you eat sometimes.
Yeah.
Like, it's weird because I love watching. I love watching all movies, and I watch TV shows, and I watch like all kinds of stuff. And sometimes I do think like music or anything, like you do have to be a little discerning. You have to curate sometimes what you let in your brain.
Yeah.
You want to watch some really good porn. No,
Well,
you know what I mean. Like, you don't want to like sit there on Insta fucking gram or something or a TikTok. Like, you want to. It's you really do have to absorb stuff. I feel like it's like dreaming, right? So like if you make a film, it's almost like you're dreaming. So that if you've had a really traumatic, weird day and you've absorbed a bunch of violence or weird shit, you might have weird, aggressive dreams. Whereas like if you allowed yourself to be in a more interesting place in your day, like maybe you'll have more pleasant or more interesting dreams.
And were there any films or like style era films that you felt yourself gravitating towards for The Projectionist?
Yeah. For sure. Like, it's interesting because, I was, just talking about Quentin, who we were talking about earlier with his movie theater in New Beverly. And, he's really into projection and film. And he wanted me to shoot some of the projectionists. He's executive producer on this because he wanted me to shoot. I was like, Quentin, I can't afford to burn food where I get my people out to Los Angeles. But generously, he was very generous offering that. But it's interesting because we've been talking a lot about films from the 30s. And the Jimmy Cagney, Humphrey Bogart, kind of like, this great like Roaring Twenties and the boxing movies and stuff. And so like I right when I was making this film, I feel like I'm as influenced by older films as I am just as much by modern films. The one thing I love about older films is the absolute drive of narrative. Like it's like great actors, great drama, high stakes, and the air is taken out. But just a lot of air. It's like bang, bang. Guys, these actors, man, they're timing. They were like dancers. They go, bah, 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 bah.
Are any of these movies, the films that play at this theater? Is it like a revival theater? Is it a
Yeah,
new
it's a
theater?
revival
Okay.
theater, and it's kind of like the last revival theater. So basically, this guy he projects them and he watches them
Yeah.
alone. You know, so
Oh, we watched it. Okay.
yeah. So he got out of prison. The story is that he got out of prison. He was set up for the wrong. It's a little film noir kind of thing.
Okay.
Because he got thrown in for a crime he didn't commit, and he got knocked out, so he doesn't even know if he committed it or not. So it's kind of like an old film noir premise, you know. So like it's like out of the past or something.
And so is it a lot of film noir that he's projecting?
Yeah, some.
Yeah.
But he also does some old, like, 400 Blows,
Right.
Estrada. He does old, art films. He's obsessed with he's obsessed with endings of films.
Okay.
I don't want to give away the whole movie.
Yeah.
But he's probably a little bit obsessed with the ending of his own movie.
Yeah.
His mortality. Like, how is this? What's the ending of his story going to be?
Right.
So he's watching, I think, to understand the endings of things. And then he gets called, and like film noir, his past comes to haunt him, like some, crime shit, and they come back and they go, well, you can't get away so easy,
Yeah.
You
I
try
mean,
to pull him back.
what's it like, for you, we mentioned In the Soup, 1992, but, you had 13 Moons premiere at Slamdance back in 2002, and then now you're coming back in 2026.
Yeah.
Like, just as this filmmaker who's been making movies for even longer than that,
Yeah.
like what feels like the same, like coming back to Slamdance, or very, very different about?
Well,
now?
they're in LA
Yeah.
now, not
Yeah.
Park City. And then what was kind of great in the Park City days is they were like the underground filmmakers, irreverent, kind of crazy, like punk rock kind of vibe. They were like they weren't the anti-Sundance, but they
Right.
were like the rough and raw, rough and ready filmmakers for Filmmakers Festival. And I love that quality of it because, for me, a lot of Sundance kind of went the way of like how to make these independent films work in a bigger Hollywood context. And they kind of like musical chairs, like a few
Yeah.
people get chosen, and everyone be going, me. And, and I was probably even like that back in the day. Although I don't think I ever really was like that, actually, to tell you the truth. But it was this kind of like auditioning. And what I loved about Slamdance, it was much more of a thing of like filmmakers for filmmakers, kind of irreverent, taking risks, doing more edgy stuff. And I love that feeling.
Yeah.
And they've retained that feeling. This is the first time that I've been in part of the LA. It's their second
Yeah.
year here. And it's kind of great that they have the DGA,
Yeah.
big theater, 600 person theater was sold out. That's fucking great. And the projection's really high quality. But the spirit really seems to be still that filmmakers
Yeah.
for filmmakers, kind of irreverent, like, hey, we're going to do this for us.
Yeah.
We're not doing it for them. We're doing it for us, and I like that. I like being part of that.
And what about, the film? Did Quentin Tarantino come on for? Was it the film projection theater side that you think like kind of pulled him in?
Yeah, Quentin and I go way back.
Yeah.
Like when we were in Sundance together, and I won that year with In the Soup, and he had Reservoir Dogs, which is a big thing. And he was so sweet when he lost that. He lost whatever. He didn't lose anything.
Yeah.
It's hard to feel sorry for Quentin. His career went.
Yeah.
And he actually loved that, right? And I was more like, I didn't know if I wanted to be part of the whole Hollywood, zeitgeisty thing. So he did great, but he came up to me after we won the film, and he hugged me. He said, "Man, congratulations!" And he was so sweet, and he's such a passionate. Whatever anyone thinks about Quentin Tarantino, and I know there are a lot of mixed feelings about Quentin, but he is a absolute lovable, sweet human being, and he sincerely adores film like very
Yeah.
few other people do. And he's got an encyclopedic knowledge about
Yeah.
certain kinds of films, right?
Yeah.
And we just got off on just talking about films. We'd stay up till 3, 4 in the morning just talking about films, watching movies, watching 3 triple features, eating popcorn. He used to live with me, and I lived with him out here. So we were close. Then we kind of fell out because he's huge, and I was like teaching in New York. And then he has always been interested in me, and I sent him a cut of the movie, and he loved it so much. Actually, no, that's not true. I sent him the script, and I asked him if I could borrow some money, and I pay him back because I'm, like very little money. I make movies for almost nothing. And so he said, sure. And so I was like, oh, that's great. So he basically loaned me the money. Then what happened is afterwards, I showed him the film, and I said, I was kind of nervous. I said, hey, Quentin, would you want to maybe be the executive producer? He went, I'd be honored to be.
Yeah.
because he loved. I think he loved the movie. He
Yeah.
loved the black and white. He loved, and it's the genre he adores. So he was proud of it, loved it. He loved all the actors in it. So yeah, no, that's a genesis of now he's.
Yeah, that's incredible. Well, I can't wait to see it. Thanks so much for
Thanks
for taking the time for me. Maybe I'll catch you afterwards.
Absolutely.
And
I'm sorry it was so
comment.
No,
it was great.
All right,
Thanks
man.
so,
All right,
thanks so
you're
much.
great.
Alex.